And welcome to Everyone's Welcome. We've got a great conversation planned for you today. And I want to just give you a little background information on this web series. Gabby and I created Everyone's Welcome to provide the opportunity for our audience to connect and to learn and be part of a greater community, bringing people together for conversations around disability, mental health, diversity, and inclusion. Our guests stop by to share their experiences and their stories that provide food for thought as we all navigate the world we now live in. Everyone's Welcome is a collaborative production of Whole Community Inclusion, of Jewish Learning Venture in Philadelphia, and Inclusion Innovations. And we are captioned. Just click on that CC icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen and click on View Captions. We're also streaming Everyone's Welcome on Facebook Live. We're recording Everyone's Welcome, and you'll receive the link in this email you shared when you registered. We invite you to share this and every episode with the people in your life, and believe me, we really appreciate it. We invite your questions and comments. Please use the chat for comments and questions.
Shelley, thank you. Since our last
Sure.
episode, some big news. You received the prestigious Religion and Spirituality Leadership Award from the American Association on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, AAIDT, Religion and Spirituality Network. This award recognizes Shelley's innovative work as well as her influence on the field of faith community disability inclusion to promote and encourage the dignity of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, blending theology and methodology to teach, mentor, support faith communities to foster meaningful relationships and participation within congregational life. Shelley, what is it like to be recognized with this amazing and well earned Shelley Award?
Oh, thank you, Gabby. I I have to say I've been in this field for over 20 years as professional and as a parent for much longer than that. And I when I look back, sometimes you think that what you do doesn't make a difference or you know, it's great. You're kind of a journey, I guess a journeyman would be the word, or journeywoman in the field. And this award um, it's been given to so many people who I just absolutely admire and love, and to be recognized for that same award was just stunning. I had to give a little talk, and as soon as that talk is available, we'll get that published. But I just felt really affirmed, and I don't know, I'm going to be really honest here. Sometimes I feel like, oh, I'm kind of an imposter. You've heard of imposter syndrome, right? It's like, yeah, talk a good game, but it's not real. And I realize I'm not talking a good game. I'm speaking truth. And and I love teaching people. I love seeing light bulbs go on in people's eyes. I love seeing the power of community. And most importantly, it means so much to all of us to belong. And I realize in receiving this award that I never have to feel like an imposter again, because I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. I'm doing what I'm called to be doing. And just, it was such a high. It
Hmm.
was like my kids' bar mitzvahs, that kind
Shelley,
of high.
it's incredible, and we'll keep celebrating because it is such a huge recognition. When you get a moment, will you put the link to the press release so folks can
Yes,
read it and really understand more about this very significant award?
I will do that. And Gabby, you
Yes.
you have you've been taking a lot of action too and doing some amazing things. You've got an exciting announcement about your new online writing series, Feed Your Spirit Writing. I love the name. And it's described as a nourishing process that engages you in creative writing exercises that help to cultivate joy and gratitude, and make space to release grief and inspire your spiritual life. The process is designed to fit into your full life and nurture your spiritual growth. And Gabby, I love that people can join your group. We'll put the link in the chat. But I wanted to ask you, and
Yeah.
I've taken part in your writing workshops and I absolutely love them. So I do people need to like qualify as a writer? Do people need to say,
No.
yes, I'm a writer? Or and tell us a little about being in the workshop.
Sure, Shelley. So I'm glad to take a moment just to share this new endeavor that I'm doing. In addition, folks know me as an educator, as an advocate for disability, but writing has been a really important part of my life since I was a young child. And what I realized at this point in my life, it's not only writing to produce, to create products, which I do with books and articles, but that it's really a mindfulness tool. It's a connection for spiritual growth and development, and that's what the workshops are all about. So you don't have to have ever written before to check it out. Send me any questions. But if you're someone who's really interested in developing your your spiritual discoveries and a place to be mindful, I'd love to welcome you into a workshop. So thank you, Shelley.
Sure.
And now we've got
It's
another writer on board today. Our topic today is um, moving forward, reflections on autism, neurodiversity, brain surgery, and faith with our guest, Jacki Edry, who we are thrilled is a writer like Shelley and me. Moving forward is a journey between the worlds of autism, neurodiversity, brain surgery, brain surgery recovery, and Jackie's personal faith. It provides a rare glimpse into how sensory and neurological processing affect functioning and thought through the eyes of a professional, a parent, and a woman who has experienced them firsthand. This book presents an informative, emotional, and empowering account of the challenges and struggles on the road to recovery, as well as the search for understanding, meaning, and faith. So, this is why, Jacki, I really connected to your book, and we want to welcome you.
Thank you very much. First of all,
yes.
I'm very honored to be here. And after that introduction, I'm even more honored to be here because the two of you are doing such incredible things. And I'm happy to jump on board and be part of all of it because there's a lot of work to do, raising
Yeah,
awareness and connecting people. And
absolutely.
I'm honored to be part of that.
Well, Jackie, we're thrilled that you're here, and Gabby, and I want to thank you first of all for joining us. A couple of questions for you can maybe talk about. You've described your new book as a journey between the worlds of autism, neurodiversity, brain surgery, recovery, and faith. And before we delve into each of those worlds, tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write your book.
Sure. There were a lot of reasons I chose to write this book, but the main reason was to help people. I've had a very unusual experience where, and I'm privileged, that I have been working with, familiar with autism for many, many years, and working with people of autism and neurodiversity from the time I'm in high school. And I am the parent of an autistic child, and my other children are also neurodiverse. And in addition to that, a number of years ago, 8 years ago, actually, I had a brain tumor. And when the brain tumor was removed, I had a very, very serious surgery. And when the brain tumor was removed and I woke up from my surgery, I found out that I was also neurodiverse. And I kind of got an inside view of what it feels like to have scrambled sensory processing and gave me insight to understand maybe what the children I'd been working with and the people I love are going through. And in addition to that, many families, I've worked with parents and many families over the years, and people need information, people need understanding, people need awareness. And I thought, well, I have this rare viewpoint because I've been on the professional side, the parenting side, and now myself. I want to get the word out and try and help people understand a little bit more about what it feels like so that they can help the people they love. That was the reason behind writing the book. That's more or less
That's
that.
great, Jacki. Thank you. So let's begin with the idea of faith. In your
Okay.
book, you share about your process of becoming a more religiously observant person. How has faith been important in terms of parenting your son, especially related to both, your son's autism diagnosis, but also faith related to your own brain surgery recovery?
Sure. This is a bit of a, there are many answers to this question. So I'm going to touch upon a few points. Um, First of all, faith is my guiding force for everything. Okay. I know, I firmly believe that Shem is behind everything. And therefore, I need to put my faith in him because he does everything for a reason. Now, most of the time, I, I can actually never understand why he does what he does. But what I can do is try and understand what I'm supposed to do when something happens. Um, so that's the first thing, is to put my faith in him. Now, I grew up in a non-religious household in America. I had no clue really about just about everything actually to do with Judaism. We did the basics. We were proud Jews. We were cultural Jews. We celebrated Hanukkah and Pesach and Rosh Hashanah, but there wasn't a particular religious aspect to it, and I didn't know anything about Shabbat or anything like that. But I did have that inner spark in me, I guess, and that led me to come to Israel. Um, and the first time I saw Jerusalem, I said, "Oh, I'm home." Now I was completely clueless as to why I would feel that I was home, being that I'd never been to Israel, and there was no reason whatsoever that that would come out of my mouth, but it did, and I kind of okay. And then I sort of went on my way and pretended nothing happened because I didn't know what to do with it, and came back to America. But I was not at peace or quiet with myself. So after about 7 months of coming back, after I came back to America, I just hopped the plane and came back and said, okay, I need to figure something out, and I'll see what happens. And that was the beginning of my journey, which continued many years. And I learned that faith and practicing Judaism has given me a lot of meaning in life. It's made that inner turmoil disappear. It's given me freedom. Shabbat for me is like the best thing in the world. Whereas from the outside looking in, I thought that Shabbat had a lot of rules, and perhaps there's a lot of no, you can't do this and you can't do that. But I've actually realized it's by eliminating all the things that take away my attention, I have time to be with my family and connect to myself and connect to my soul and connect to Hashem. And actually, instead of no, it's actually yes. It's the thing that enables me to have the power to connect through everything. It also helped me realize that my son and everybody actually is a divine human being, and Hashem decides how a person should be, and therefore he's not something that's imperfect. He's not somebody that needs to be fixed. He is what he is, and he is an amazing human being, and he's a very spiritual human being. As a matter of fact, he's so connected that people really learn from him to connect. There's not a person in the synagogue that walks out in the morning without coming to him and asking, he's in his 20s already, to bless them on their way out the door, because he is a totally unique and pure human being. He's never done anything to hurt anybody in his life. So living beside somebody like that makes us all sort of correct ourselves, and work on our midot, and that's an amazing thing. What else did I want to say about that? But also in terms of myself, realizing that when I was diagnosed, I had to put myself in God's hand. There was nothing else that I can do. And say Shema Israel, and let the people who are going to be working tinkering inside of my brain do a good job. But it gave me the faith, gave me the strength to keep fighting, and also knowing that I had every Jew has every person, I suppose, but certainly Jews, the mitzvahs, the doing mitzvahs is a real important part of Judaism. And as long as we have the strength to do one more mitzvah, then we are, it's worth fighting to do that mitzvah, because that mitzvah takes us to, it enables us to grow, and enables Hashem to appreciate, and enables us to go to a higher place in the heavens. And I remember after my surgery, when I woke up, one of the first things I did when I moved out of the intensive care unit was to ask somebody to give me a what do you call it, a natla, a cup to wash my hands. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm here to do that. That's an incredible thing. And on the Shabbat, 2 weeks later, when I managed to take those few steps from my bed and go and light the candle, I stood there and I cried and I said, here we go. I can do this mitzvah. So I'm going to have another one to do and another one to do. And thank God, 8 years later, I've managed to do a lot more. And that gave me the strength really to keep fighting. And another story that was incredible. I mean, some of these things are hard to believe, but they happened. It was when I was lying there in bed. I was in maybe 3 or 4 days out of intensive care, and I was not able to talk, move. I couldn't do anything really. I was incapacitated for quite a long time, and I was mostly sleeping because it took a while to wake up. Took a few weeks before I could really get out of this big haze that I felt like I was in. But I had been working with youth at the time. I worked with disadvantaged children, youth at risk, and I ran a student program. And when I was, one of the things we did was we decided that a lot of these girls could not have a bat mitzvah. So we organized the bat mitzvah, and I was part of that program. I initiated it, and we got the bat mitzvah, all the planning, and then I was diagnosed. And a few weeks later, I was immediately in surgery. And so we said, okay, I can't be at the bat mitzvah, but do the bat mitzvah anyway. So we organized the whole thing, and that happened while I was in the hospital. And one day I'm lying there in bed, deep sleep, and suddenly I feel this cloud of energy enter my body and sort of wake me up. And I felt, oh, what's going on here? I feel good. Something's going on here. I suddenly had energy. And it turned out that that was the time during the bat mitzvah ceremony that all the girls there decided to pray for me. And that's how I felt, that even if I had a little bit of a doubt that maybe prayers, who knows? Nobody knows, right? Nobody could prove something happens, that prayers actually do the work we think they're doing. Suddenly, at that very moment, I felt them go into my body. And I knew, there can no longer be a doubt about anything. And that gave me a lot of strength as well.
Wow. There are no coincidences.
No.
It's just, being aware that the universe is there,
Absolutely.
just providing. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you about neurodiversity and what you've learned from your parenting experiences. But I also, Jacki, want to ask you to just kind of give us your perspective on neurodiversity. What is it? And how does it relate to disability and basic humanity, essentially? Is it disability, or is it just part of who we are?
I don't think it is disability. I think that everybody is different. And as I said before, we're all divine creatures. And actually, if there wasn't something that was called neurodiversity, then um, some people would say the world would be pretty much boring. But I take it a step further and say that what would actually happen if we were all clones? We are not meant to be part of, we weren't made in a factory. Everybody has their mission in life. And even a person who might seem to be disabled or different, that doesn't mean they don't have a mission in life. They do. It might be harder for other people to understand what that is, and it might be harder for them to communicate it, but it absolutely exists. Um, so I don't believe there is any reason. I don't think we need to categorize people. This person is neurodiverse. This person is autistic. This person is this. This person has ADHD. This person has hearing things. Everybody is who they are, and everybody has something different. What is important to know is that different is not lesser, and it is different. And if a person has challenged, then people need to accommodate for that challenge and make it easier for the person. So if there's something going on, like I have these dark glasses, I'm not wearing sunglasses at night. It's a night in Israel, by the way. I'm sitting here with these dark glasses because these are Earland spectral filters. When I woke up from my surgery, I had incredible hypersensitivity to light, and visual disturbances in my visual field, and it was like insane. I mean, I couldn't look at anything. My whole visual field became unstable, and I'd be talking to somebody, and their faces would suddenly become doubled or melt, and all kinds of crazy things. And I couldn't really walk out of my house or go into a mall or a performance or anything like that. So for that sort of thing, you have to find a way of compensating or making life easier. And I found these, and now I can walk out the door. Or if a person has a hearing, like an auditory processing problem or hearing loss or something like that, there's a lot of equipment available or things that people can do or ways to accommodate for them to make life a lot easier. Again, not deficient, not broken, but things need to be considered and accommodations need to be made in order to make life, their quality of life, and the quality of life of people who love them and are around them much better. That's what I feel about neurodiversity, and that everyone has to contribute something. And if you look around, some of the greatest inventors and the most incredible things, people that have come up with the most incredible things are considered to be neurodiverse. I don't
Jackie,
know. Hmm?
this is sort of a follow up to that. I think you touched on it with the accommodation you need with your glasses. But
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about like before and after your brain surgery in terms of this perspective you're sharing with us? You know, as you said, you were a parent, you were a professional working with lots of different kids, but after your brain surgery experience and recovery, do you think you understood about neurodiversity in a different, maybe a more personal way, even?
I think the best way to describe it is that I think also the way to help somebody with neurodiversity, whether, like I said, any of the things I mentioned, ADHD, auditory processing, autism, dyslexia, it doesn't matter what it is. Especially sensory things where a child might get overloaded as a parent. They get overwhelmed, and then they may um, tantrum, refuse to go into someplace, or have a really hard time. Um, I spent, sort of have to observe them and try and figure out what's going on there. And for many, many years, I felt that most of the things going on with all these kids was that they're having sort of irregular sensory processing that sometimes would go into overload, or sometimes would just not be clear. And that would dysregulate their entire being, and they would not be able to make sense of their environments. It's like if your sensory processing or your input is messed up or scrambled for any reason, um, and then you put in, it's like typing into a calculator. Okay, if you got a calculator and you type in the wrong number because your input is incorrect, then you process it. Now the calculator is not going to make a mistake in terms of computing, right? And then the output of the answer is going to be wrong, or and that can happen with sensory processing, where you're getting scrambled information, and then the processor might be fine. There might be also challenges there, but let's assume the processing for this is okay, but the answer will be considered not regular or wrong if you're in a school situation. Let's say if a child is reading and then the letters are going all over the page. My children have dyslexia. They were diagnosed with dyslexia and ADHD, which actually turned out to be Irlen syndrome, like I have. And the minute they got glasses, they started reading, but they couldn't pay attention to anything or figure out what was written or do math because the letters were moving all over the page. So it didn't matter how hard they tried. They wouldn't get the right answer. And that's the stuff we need to understand, that a person who's having a sensory problem or an input problem is going to have to work much, much, much harder than somebody else to get through the day, or certainly in a school classroom. If it's an auditory processing problem, if you miss one word in every sentence, how long do you think you could concentrate? Probably not more than 5 minutes. And how many things are going to get wrong? Now, those sort of things are things I really became much clearer about. I assumed that was going on all those years, but when it actually happened to me, I understood really how hard it could be. And I was fortunate that it happened to me with my cognition remained intact. So I had adult cognition. So if I was standing there and talking to a person and we're in the middle of a conversation and suddenly the face melts or becomes double, and I'm saying to myself, all right, I'm going to try and pretend nothing is going on here. I know my brain is playing tricks on me. I didn't know that it was problem processing light, but I knew my brain was playing tricks on me. So I'm going to try and pretend nothing's going to happen and have a normal conversation now. I don't know how normal that conversation was, because it was very difficult to concentrate when you see persons, face melting. But if I had been a child and didn't have anything, regular sensory input to compare it to, there is no way I would ever look at somebody's face. I would have been scared. It would have been to see a person suddenly turn into a monster, or if I go into a stairwell and the stairs are turning like into a Hitchcock movie when it's the vertigo and they're going. I couldn't walk downstairs. They would be moving around, and it was terrifying. And I hear of kids like on the spectrum sometimes that refuse to go into stairwells or refuse to go into malls. A mall is horrible. It's got a number of different lighting. It's got smells. It's got sounds. It's got, most of them now have these flashing screens with all different things to make you, advertise and make you want to buy more stuff, and everything's fast. And I walk into a place like that, I'm like, whoa, I just want to run away. It's very, very scary. So I understood that was what was going on. And I also understood one other thing, which is perhaps it's controversial in terms of a lot of therapists, but a lot of people are on social media a lot now because of the book, and I'm trying to see what people are talking about and share what I've come to understand. And I see a lot of people, autistic people and neurodiverse people, who are saying that the treatment with behavioral therapy, which the main or most popular treatment is, it's called ABA. In the past, it was called behavior modification. And there's a huge controversy about this, whereas it's very, very popular. But at the same time, people on the spectrum are saying that it's awful. Adults, awful. They feel they were abused, and they also feel like they have post-trauma. And I understand them, because if you're having a sensory problem, it's very stressful. And if a person is making you change that behavior, then the sensory problem, or the stimming, I mean, you feel like a circuit breaker is tripped when something like that happens. Now, I had physical therapists teaching me how to rock because I couldn't stand up straight. And they said, well, this will balance out your vestibular system. And actually, I had a really strong left pull. And I stood there and rocked. I found myself standing in the kitchen and rocking. And the physical therapist saying to me, you know, it helps to go back and forth, hold on to the chair and rock back and forth. And I burst out laughing. She said, why are you laughing? I said, because if I was diagnosed with autism, they would say to me, you're not allowed to rock because it's stimming. Now, that's with almost all of those behaviors. And what I found is that, and I've heard this also, people that work with me, I said, who have the same viewpoint, that when you balance out the sensory problems, the need to stim disappears. And that's what happened to me. And that's what I've seen happen a lot. But if you add on to it by forcing a child to stop those behaviors, then they're going to have another behavior come in that place. And that's what often happens. People who work in ABA, and I did work in ABA, by the way, I worked in ABA school 30 years ago for a short period of time. They say something, you know, extinguish a behavior, and then something else comes in its place. And the reason I believe it is because there's a reason. Something's off balance, and the person who's experienced it tries to balance it themselves. So these are the things I came to understand, and probably a lot of people, certainly ABA professionals, would be really upset with me for saying this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't not say it because I understand it, and I think sensory issues need to be addressed before anything else.
I agree with you. And the Lovas model, which is ABA, is there's just been it's not only controversial, it's so costly, and the drain on parents, particularly, and family members, and finding people to work with them can be obstacles as well. So there's just, you know, we present lots of points of view on
Sure.
everyone's welcome, so no worries there
No,
at
I
all.
don't. I also, you know, I don't tell anyone what to do, and I am certainly not.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not saying that parents who believe that that helps their child, that they're wrong. I'm just saying what I
Right.
come to
Well,
understand.
and you make a point about behavior, and every behavior has a purpose.
So,
And in addition to, you know, if somebody is being kind of forced away from a natural tendency, there's a lot of stigma there too. Besides anxiety, there's a lot of stigma that's attached in so many ways. If you don't do things the way that narrow percentage of people do things,
sure.
there must be something wrong with you too. So thank you for highlighting that. That's so important. Jackie, we're just about to the end of our conversation. And by the way, I just downloaded your book from Kindle today. So very excited. I've read it. So now I have my own copy, published copy. But what do you hope that readers will take away from reading your book?
A number of different things. Number one, before and after a diagnosis, if you have a child, if you're a parent, your child is the same child you loved before and after they're diagnosed. That's number one. Number two is never ever give up. Every person is divine and has something to give to this world and has a mission. My tip to parents is to observe your children carefully and try and figure out what's going on there, and then look for a creative solution to it. And if the school districts or there's like a trend for a certain type of treatment, which is very common, I know here in Israel it is anyway, suggest something to you that doesn't seem right to you, trust your instincts, because sometimes people suggest stuff that just doesn't feel right, and you know your child better than anybody else. And if professionals say stay out of the room, we know what we're doing, We make the decisions, sign off on this IEP, and we know what we've all decided. And you don't feel that's right? If you can, change the professionals, because you need to work as a team to figure out the best way to make his life, that your child can reach their potential and have as much quality of life as possible. Um, One second, I wrote a few little notes because there were a few other things I wanted to end with. And I think it's important not to underestimate, to understand the value of community and faith, and how important they are, especially for children on the spectrum or kids with neurodiversity. Sometimes they're not part of the community, and that's unfortunate. Communities that can give a family tremendous strength in my healing process, and also with my son. And sometimes schools neglect the fact that a child is religious, or can do things, and can believe. My son is barely, he doesn't even speak full sentences. He speaks very short sentences. And sometimes people would think, oh, he doesn't understand, and maybe doesn't need to be part of a faith community, but he actually does, and he's very, very spiritual. Schools or school districts don't always understand this, so it's up to us as parents or communities to understand that that's very, very important, to include people with disabilities, or even if they're not verbal, in services, and have them become part of the community. What else? I think that's more or less. And love your family, and love your children, and love every day, because every day, to get up and say modani, modani, and to go to bed and say, I was able to do all these wonderful things, because all those little things you could do are blessings. And sometimes we get so involved with the busyness of life that we forget to just look at all those little things that we can do. Believe me, if you can walk from the couch to the bathroom on your own, and you can take a shower, and you can eat and swallow and not choke on your food, and you can hug your child or your family, you are a very blessed person. And if you can see those things, then you're a very fortunate person. I'm fortunate. I'm not sad at what happened to me. I think what happened to me taught me a tremendous amount, and enabled me to appreciate all those things in life. So I'm a very, very lucky
woman. Jacki, we're so moved and grateful you're here with us. Shelley, go ahead, take it away. I just put a note for
Oh,
folks
I
to just, if you're feeling, it doesn't have to be a question, even a comment, feel free to put it in the chat.
that's exactly what I was going to say. And yeah, Jacki, I'm just so moved by what you've shared with us today. And there's so much truth in what you've said, and just,
Thank you.
yeah.
Jacki, I think any of us who have lived through any kind of, you know, encounter with mortality, there's a choice. I know in my experience with illness, it's really a choice, and that's what you modeled for us. You can certainly stay in the why me state, and you're
Yeah.
not going to grow. And
Right.
what you talked about was being open to that, to that growth opportunity. And that's what was so beautiful. And I think if folks read your book, they will learn more, even more details about your story.
Thank you. And I am, you can find me on, my book is on Amazon, but I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to help people. The reason I wrote the book is to assist people. So you can find me pretty easily, and I'm very happy to connect up and help with anybody who needs.
That's great, Jacki. And when I send out the thank you and the recording today, or not today, but in a day or two when it's all recorded, I will send a link to your book so people will have it handy. So really, once again, our gratitude to Jacki for sharing your incredible wisdom with us. And next time on Everyone's Welcome, we're really excited. And Wendy, I think you're here with us today. We're going to sit down with a wonderful, amazing artist, Wendy Elliott Vandeveer, who's a graduate of Tyler School of Art at Temple University here in Philadelphia, where I live. She's been making art and mischief, in her own words, since she was a young child growing up in Philadelphia. In college, she majored in sculpture and staged a funeral of a disabled poster child to lay stereotypes of pity and helplessness firmly to rest.
Oh,
Yeah, she's incredible. Her paintings explore issues of family, memory, and experiences as a disabled woman. Her autobiographical cartoons focus on attitudinal barriers and stereotypes regarding disabilities and some of the microaggressions that disabled people experience while living normal, uninspirational lives. She's also a photographer of micro-scale monuments in nature and is often inspired by close-up images that people often do not notice in daily life, such as tree bark, dead leaves, flower anatomy, and water. And that will be on July 22nd. We'll have a link ready to share with you to register in a day or two. That will be our next episode of Everyone's Welcome.
I just want to say thank you so much. This has been a real honor.
Oh, Jacki, thank you. And
Yes.
Shelley, take it away with our
All
final
right. So
comments
we're gonna,
here.
yes, Gabby and I would really appreciate if you check out our books on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, BNN.com, Kindle, and Kindle Unlimited too, which you can, if you're a subscriber to Kindle Unlimited, you can read them for free, which is amazing and wonderful. And we appreciate so much um, when when you're interested in the works that we've written. And for those of you who are involved in early childhood education, your parents or grandparents, Gabby's new book, In My Kahila, is a must have. It is a beautifully written book, beautifully illustrated, about the power of community, and explains so much about friends with disabilities, friends without disabilities. It's a wonderful book, and you can find that link in. I thought I had it on this page, but it's if you go to jewishlearningventure.org in my Kahila, you'll find it.
That's great, Shelley. And I'll send that out too with the recording.
That's great. And then um, again, we'll notify you for the next webinar and also when the recording's available. And you can also find our 25 episode archive, I think, which is just so many. If you got a half an hour, 45 minutes, and you want to meet some really amazing people, hop on to jkidaccess.org, and then you can reach Gabby and I either by email, Facebook, or LinkedIn. So, on that note, I want to thank you all again for being here today. It's so great to see everyone and see our friends and new faces, and we invite you back for the next episode. And please, please share Everyone's Welcome and help us spread the word. Tell your friends, tell your colleagues, tell your friends' colleagues, and your colleagues' friends. We appreciate your support so much. Stay safe and be well, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.